Is Cyberpunk 2077 worth buying in 2021? Cyberpunk 2077 no doubt was an insanely controversial game. When the game released early December last year, many's expectations were quite high for the game, and rightfully so, with the marketing that was pushed out from CD Projekt Red and claims that made the game into the spotlight and made it seem that CD Projekt Red had created an absolute video game masterpiece, a revolution in the RPG genre. I personally don't think it was that, but many ticked the game off without even playing it due to its more than disastrous launch. So is Cyberpunk 2077 worth it 9 months after its release? Today we'll be talking about the story and gameplay of Cyberpunk 2077. Of course, I won't be spoiling anything in terms of the game's main narrative, and I'll just give a few points that will build up the premise of the game's main campaign. The game follows the story of V, who's a hired gun on the rise in the infamous Night City, which is considered the most dangerous and violent metropolitan area of the era. Some of what the player does very early in the game when, for example, crafting your version of V, you can choose options that may potentially impact later plot points within the game. There are 3 main background stories that you are able to choose right from the start, but they don't really affect the broader story of Cyberpunk 2077, but with each one you're offered a special backstory and introductory mission that will later help you build your iteration of V. The Nomad, the Street Kid, or the Corporate all have their own choices in dialogue, which can significantly impact some parts of the game's main plot points through the implications of player choice alone, and these different roles within the game can surely be advocates for players to be able to flesh out their characters and what initially drove their iteration of V to the chaotic Night City, which can all have indirect and direct influences on the world of Cyberpunk 2077. I personally loved the story of Cyberpunk, and to me it's easily the best part of the entire game. The player choice might not be as diverse or revolutionary as CD Projekt Red had stated it was going to be, but I still really enjoyed the fact that I was still able to make decisions that would affect the overarching story of Cyberpunk. There's also a decent amount of likable characters which by themselves create the very foundation in which Cyberpunk 2077's story is built upon, and these characters are fantastic and extremely well written. Jackie, who is with you right from the start of the game, is such an incredible character and was just an awesome one to be around. Judy was also awesome, and if you decide to take up more opportunities with you, you definitely see yourself create a bond with her as well. Panam, who's also another love interest of V's and one that has many stories linked to her that you can choose to pursue, is such a fleshed out and fantastically written character who I enjoyed the company of throughout the entire game. My personal favorite character has to be the character who's voice acted by the one and only Keanu Reeves, Johnny Silverhand, who will be with you for the entire game, which means you'll see a gargantuan amount of character development from him and see an awesome bond built between him and V. Overall, the story of Cyberpunk 2077 is its strongest aspect and is actually incredible, and I'd recommend playing this game just for its stellar story alone. Now on to the gameplay section of Cyberpunk 2077. Personally, I love the gameplay of this game. Sure, it's extremely simplistic and wasn't what I expected when I was offered a first-class gameplay experience. And it definitely isn't innovative by any means, but it really doesn't need to be. Cyberpunk 2077 is an expansive open world and a non-linear RPG set in a surprising first-person perspective, and the customization of your V and to the world around you is incredible. You can customize your character to be whatever the hell you want it to be. Want to be a chaotic double jumping samurai? Why the hell not? Want to be a full mercenary and embody what V truly is? Go for it. Or do you want a mix of both? Well, damn, go for it. Cyberpunk 2077 might not be the colossal revolution that it was promised to be, but the customization options and player choice are incredible and is something to definitely note. The main set of mechanics are definitely the gunplay, which includes the melee aspects of the game combat as well, the exploration of the gigantic Night City, as well as the outskirts of the city known as the Barren Badlands, the aspect of player choice and how these decisions of the player impact the city in the world of Cyberpunk 2077, and many other different and diversified activities such as hacking are heavily prevalent throughout the game, with the main missions, side quests, and objectives being able to be completed using the entire array of different gameplay mechanics that V has to be able to complete his objective. The combat, first of all, is built around the fact that the gameplay will always primarily be in the first person perspective, and the only time that really changes is when you're driving around the city, and there's literally no other time that you're able to use the third person person perspective in the game. So the combat is awesome. You either use your guns or melee weapons, but there's an extreme amount of diversity with these two different types of weapons, with guns ranging from simple pistols to snipers to rocket launchers, which have all been crafted with that futuristic flair that you would expect from a game set in the year 2077. Within the combat, there's also different classes that you can choose from, being the Netrunner, well, essentially elite hackers, and is more lean to players who would like to take a more stealthy approach to the combat. The skills of the Netrunner class will allow players to get access to locked doors and to even more intricate systems such as security and encryption, and with some upgrades as well, this can extend to hacking the minds of your own enemies. Then there's also the Solo class, which is more of a class that is suited to who V really is, which is a mercenary, and this class's skill focus on that of normal combat, being strong and fast and the most capable when it comes to melee combat. In my playthrough, I utilized both of these, but I prefer the Solo class, especially with the upgrades that can be obtained, which just make the class so much damn fun in and out of combat. Before I keep going on about the combat, let me address the bugs of Cyberpunk 2077 throughout its release and the patch notes which are still happening, but they have already put the game in a more than playable state, and you shouldn't have many problems running the game smoothly anymore. And for me, it ran absolutely fantastically. Okay, back to the gameplay. Cyberpunk also has many skill trees which can be used, and some skills help to perform certain actions such as hacking, crafting, and combat in general. The 5 attributes that you are able to upgrade through the skill tree itself are the body, cool, intelligence, reflexes, and technical abilities. I really enjoy the combat of the game, even though it definitely isn't a revolution or marvel by any means, but the combat paired with a different class and the upgrades to the skills makes it entirely unique and overall makes an incredible experience. Now for the game's exploration. Most of the game's exploration is usually done in vehicles while you traverse the city, and the cars range from just normal standard cars to the fun motorbikes to tanks in later parts of the game, which aren't just the typical ones seen in games like Watch Dogs or Grand Theft Auto, but they've been given that sensation of futurism which really adds to the overall immersion that you get from the world of Cyberpunk 2077. Exploration can also be done in a variety of other ways as well, which includes using the bodily movements of V himself, such as crouching, sprinting, jumping, sliding, and vaulting under the game's obstacles to traverse the dangerous and chaotic city of Cyberpunk. Then there's also fast travel, which can be expanded upon by finding fast travel data terms, which once interacted with will give you a map of the city and all available points of fast travel within the game that you've unlocked. Just to finish off as well, the game's graphics are beautiful. It may not be on the same level of detail they were originally promised, or on that level of the games like Red Dead Redemption 2 and The Last of Us Part 2, but it still looks incredible. However, I don't think that the PS5 and Series X optimized versions of the game has come out yet. So for now, until that is released, I recommend buying this game on PC, and it generally fits onto PC a lot better as well. The last gen consoles have mostly been fixed in terms of bugs and problems that plagued its launch, and you should still have a good time with it on those consoles now, but I still recommend checking out videos on that still to make sure. The music of Cyberpunk is also absolutely amazing, and it's such an awesome soundtrack that perfectly reflects the themes of the game, and it just fits into every scenario of the game like a puzzle piece, and is another amazing aspect of the game. So yes, you should absolutely buy Cyberpunk 2077 in 2021, as the game is fantastic, and now that it isn't covered by the bugs and disasters that surround its launch, it's shown what an excellent game it really is. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope I was able to convince you to buy this fantastic video game. Let me know what you think about Cyberpunk 2077 if you already played it down in the comments below, and let me know whether you bought the game because of this video. Anyway, that's all from me for today's video. Peace.